Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Alright guys, today's date, March the 6th, 2021, and how time keeps marching on. I'll show myself out. Welcome to the weekend edition of How the Frack We Got Here, and on this podcast we do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, this is a family-friendly podcast, so we do try to watch our language a little bit on here, but unfortunately there may be some things that we may show of a graphic nature, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Well, we talked about this on the midweek edition this Wednesday, and it's amazing that Greg Abbott, Texas Governor Abbott, hey Abbott, not the Mel Brooks thing, but again, Greg Abbott, who decided to open Texas fully, was giving his explanation and reasoning as to why.
Are the lowest that they have been in 4 months. The number of active COVID cases is the lowest since November and is less than half of what it was just a month ago. That means that far more Texans are recovering from COVID than contracting it. Also, today is the lowest positivity rate we've had in 4 months. We have been under 10% positivity rate for days now. Today, we're now under 9% positivity rate in the state of Texas. But make no mistake, and to be clear, COVID has not suddenly disappeared. COVID still exists in Texas, in the United States, and across the globe. But it is clear from the recoveries, from the vaccinations, from the reduced hospitalizations, and from the safe practices that Texans are using, that state mandates are no longer needed. So today, I'm issuing a new executive order that rescinds most of the earlier executive orders. Effective next Wednesday, all businesses of any type are allowed to open 100%. That includes any type of entity in Texas. Also, I am ending the statewide mask mandate. Now, despite these changes, remember this: removing state mandates does not end personal responsibility or the importance of caring for your family members and caring for your friends and caring for others in your community. Personal vigilance to follow the safe standards is still needed to contain COVID. It's just that now state mandates are no longer needed.
All I can sit there and say the entire time was, number one, did anybody find it amazing that Governor Abbott had to flip over the paper to continue his speech? I thought that was funny as all get out. It was actually like watching a robot get to the end of his programming. It's like, okay. However, his reasoning behind this all still makes no sense. That numbers are down, fewer people are getting COVID, so now you're going to open up the state. Keep in mind, this is the same state that was just hit with a winter storm and its power infrastructure crumbled. People were stuck in their homes. You couldn't get assistance to them. And now, after all said and done, which Texas went back to normal Texas weather, which is 80 and 90, it's gone back to that. Now you want to, because of the COVID numbers, open everything and drop the mask. But still sit there and say we still have to follow safety protocols. No, it doesn't work that way. You can't sit there and say we have the lowest state transmission of COVID-19, so we're going to open everything up. But then turn around and still talk about safety. No, this is how numbers will increase. Numbers are going to increase big time because, again, I don't know what it is about the South in science and using logical tracking. I still don't understand it. It's like the numbers are trending down. That means in order for them to keep trending down, we have to keep the protocols in place which got us there in the first place. But you can't turn around and sit there and say, oh, this is a perfect time because Texans need help. People need to get back to work. Businesses need people to get back to work. Oh, so you do admit that your working capitalism doesn't work in a society where where the average income depends on a person's working ability. Now, the simple fact of the matter is that we might have to look at it a different way if people can't work or the jobs themselves disappear. But, we don't want to talk about that. But we want to get people working again, regardless of the situation that's going on with COVID. And the fact that less than 5% of the population has already been inoculated, and still vaccines are on their way, but we're nowhere near the level of where we can safely even have the discussion of how people can get back to work. But you want to open up in a state that just now is still recovering from a winter storm 2 weeks ago. Right. I see numbers going up in Texas after this. I still see numbers going up from the CPAC in Florida because, again, that was another super spreader event. So I guess we'll find out. But again, with that said, I don't know what it is about the South and science, but even in my home state of Tennessee, it's not surprising, where a newly proposed Tennessee bill would give immunity to drivers who unintentionally hit protesters blocking streets. How do you unintentionally hit protesters? I mean, I cannot make this up. A newly proposed bill in Tennessee would make it even more difficult to protest in the state by making obstructing a highway a felony and giving immunity to drivers who intentionally injure or kill those in the way. Again, I have to ask this question. How do you unintentionally hit a protester on a street? Because in my opinion, you just cannot. You hit somebody, you have the ability to stop. You have the ability to avoid them. But if they decide to protest on the street, I don't understand how unintentionally hit. See, this is why I said it's going to make it dangerous. I'm not going to say, I know the article says difficult to protest. That makes it dangerous. That means that drivers who really do have the thought, when they see people protesting, they're really going to have the thought to say, well, if I hit them, I can say it was unintentional and get immunity. It is amazing to me the level of what we'll do to prevent protest, but give those who believe, and a lot of people out there really do believe that it's completely okay to run over a protester in a street or an interstate or highway. They believe it's completely okay. This law is like stand your ground with a vehicle. It really is. And so This is being, like I said, this is being in my home state of Tennessee is doing this single-handedly, introducing this bill, which eventually will hit our state legislature. But it is amazing to me that this bill gets introduced. Of all the things going on in Tennessee right now, this gets introduced. That alone screams volumes about where our state legislature's time and our tax dollars are going. But then again, I've said the same thing about Tennessee that I've said for almost, since I realized Tennessee was backwards. Tennessee is progressively backwards. They are. That rule alone just makes no sense. Also, you know what makes no sense? What in the world are we teaching our children in these schools? I know I spoke about one school this week about the BS because the mom has an OnlyFans, and so the school decided to get rid of the kids. Here's something else that another school has done, which again amazes me. That this one school in Mississippi, this one teacher gave a slave letter writing activity. I wish I could make this up. This was actually at a middle school where quote unquote, the assignment asked students to pretend you are a slave working on a Mississippi plantation and writing a letter back to your family in Africa or in another American state describing your life. Are you kidding me? Pretend like you are a slave working on a Mississippi plantation and write a letter to your family back in Africa or in another American state describing your life. It was supposed to be, what kills me is the reasoning. The reasoning they sat there and said was that it was supposed to be about the atrocities and negatives of slavery. And also, the purpose of the assignment was to show our students just how horrible slavery was and to gain empathy for what it was like to be a slave. The logic. The logic is astounding. So in order for them to show the atrocities and negatives of slavery, which you have a cavalcade of learning material to teach children, you decide to go, okay kids, pretend you're a slave working on a plantation and you want to write a letter back to your family in Africa and let them know how you're doing. Okay, so first and foremost, your assignment is flawed off the bat because I don't think any slaves during the 400 years of bondage were allowed to send any letters back home to Africa, considering there was no mail service at the time. And also, I don't think the slave owners really liked the fact that their co-workers, that their forced employees were sending negative reviews back to Africa. Oh, don't come to this plantation, 0 stars. I don't see that happening. But this is what I talk about when I say they take our history and they whitewash it. They make it seem less than what it is. This is a failed teachable moment to middle school children to let them know about America's dark history. Yes, it is. But they failed. And even more so, I love when they say, well, we don't discriminate against race. Again, it's not the fact that you discriminate against race. It's the fact that you just took a big dump on history and then you try to cover it up saying, oh, well, this is just again, whoever was the educator that thought this was a good idea should immediately be fired. I don't want this person teaching any young children anything. Reason being because if you're teaching them about how to tolerate and acknowledge race and acknowledge racism and acknowledge America does have a racism problem, and this teacher is failing at doing that, somebody needs to go back to school. But again, to sit there and say that this was supposed to help them understand the negatives of slavery, no, that is a sad excuse. Also, what else is a sad excuse? Like I said before, I don't know what's going on with these schools. I really don't. That there is a school in Texas that gave a chivalry assignment. Now, in this assignment, it says that quote unquote, it was including rules on how female students at a certain high school should conduct themselves around their male classmates. The assignment goes, quote unquote, hear ye, ladies, the lesson begins. The ladies will demonstrate to the school how the code of chivalry and standards set and the medieval concept of courtly love carries over to the modern day. The lesson called for them to dress in a feminine manner to please the men, and to address all men respectfully by title, with a lowered head and curtsy. It instructed them to never criticize a male, initiate conversation, or whine. It directed them to walk behind the men or walk daintily as if their feet were bound, and they were told to cook, clean, and obey any reasonable request of a male. If not sure what is considered reasonable, ladies can check with their teachers. Students should also continue the actions at home. Fathers and adult males may insist on following the rules into the evening, according to the assignment. Outside the classroom, ladies cannot show intellectual superiority if it would offend the men around them. Bonus points were offered for every adult signature proving they were worthy of honor by the gentleman. Yes, that was an actual assignment. And also the messed up part, just for you guys, this is actually a picture. Well, actually, I didn't mean to do that. Well, hang on a second. Let's see if we can blow it up just a little bit more. Yeah, that's the assignment. Think about this: rules for chivalry, and this was an assignment for women. And I'm just like, how was this allowed? And then again, I know it was loud. It was in Texas, but just because it's in the South doesn't mean anything. Because stupid assignments like this can pop up anywhere. But this alone is just amazing to me, because you're basically telling women that you are no different than property, so go ahead and act like it. You're property of the men around you, but act like it. I cannot stress how much that is that alone is just it's asinine. It really is. To sit there and say, ladies, this is the rules you got. Boys, call them a lady and just pay off all the expenses. Here's the thing about chivalry. There's a reason. There is honestly a reason why chivalry isn't the chivalry that used to be. Because chivalry actually, if we really want to be honest, chivalry was actually the rules following a knight in knighthood. It had nothing to do with manners. It was just a name that was attached into a set of manners that eventually became what they thought was the quote-unquote very cosmopolitan and sophisticated way of society. How thankful we got away from that, because again, what does a woman learn in that assignment? You learn that number one, women were never treated equal, and they were treated as property. And now you have an assignment in 2021 that was done by a teacher who said, "Oh, this should be fun for the women to learn," and also bonus points for every man that said that that was impressed by the fact you follow the rules. What is it with it whenever we're turning around and we're doing a freaking indoctrination of it's almost like The Handmaid's Tale. Now, if you've never seen The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, you really should, but this is basically indoctrination of that. And it just amazes me what is being taught in schools. It really does. There's just no way to put that as far as the levels of what people are learning in man, education is failing us. It truly is. However, what is also going to be failing us is the STEMI. I know I shouldn't call it the STEMI, but everybody else is. But the stimulus bill, like I said before, as I said this Wednesday, was approved by the House and is now in the Senate. And, well, you would think the Democrats would move fast on this.
Nations, millions also waiting for economic help in this pandemic. And at this hour, the Senate is now debating the president's COVID relief bill and those $1,400 checks for most Americans. We reported here there has been a change in those checks. So Mary Bruce asking the president about that just today. And Vice President Kamala Harris and the tie-breaking moment that opened this whole debate. Will that become a sign of the times in this 50-50 Senate? Here's Mary tonight.
Tonight, President Biden's massive $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill has finally made its way to the Senate floor. In a sign of the divisions gripping Washington, all Republicans voting against moving forward. Vice President Kamala Harris stepping in to break the tie.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50, the Senate being equally divided. The Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the motion to proceed is agreed to.
The bill includes $160 billion for testing and vaccinations, help for small businesses, and $1,400 checks to people making up to $75,000 a year. For those making up to $80,000, a slightly smaller check. It's less than what Biden wanted.
Are you comfortable with having to limit the direct payments?
Yes.
And enhanced unemployment benefits will now expire at the end of August, a month sooner than Biden had hoped.
Mary Bruce with us live from the White House tonight. And Mary, the Senate divided 50-50, but the president knows what the polls are showing, that this stimulus bill still has broad support from Democrat and Republican voters across the country. But in Washington tonight, as you point out, Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats divided 50-50, and it would appear that Republicans, at least some of them, are trying to deliberately slow this down.
I had to stop it there because it just goes in the fact that Republicans wanted the whole bill read, which is basically a stalling tactic. They won the entire 628-page plan read because as if they couldn't remember how it went to basically stall Congress out. But again, Democrats are going to have a hard time with this, and I see this happening because again, everything the Democrats want to do, the Republicans are not going to be on board on. That is going to be a fact of life for the next 4 years. Probably the next 2 if Democrats don't actually maintain the majority in the House and the Senate. But for Biden and Madam Vice President Harris, their term, that's going to be just them fighting Republicans. Anything they want to put forward, Republicans will block it. It's basically like President Obama. Anything he wanted to put forward, Republicans blocked it or tried to block it. So now that you have a Democratic president and a vice president who are pushing forward with Democratic policies, of course we're going to expect Republicans to block everything. Of course it's going to come down to 50-50. And yes, it's going to come down to Kamala Harris to be the tiebreaker. We've been saying this since we kept on saying what would happen if the Democrats got a majority and started pushing their agenda forward. It will always come down to a tiebreaker if the Senate is tied. We already said this. This is just a realization that Kamala Harris is going to be, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be a lot more important than anybody gave consideration to for this term because she will be the tiebreaker. On top of that, it amazed me so that again they made restrictions, changes to the relief bill. Of course, I've said this before, I wish they would have capped it off at 100,000. Because if you're making 100,000 or more a year, I don't think you're hurting as bad as everybody else. That's just me. However, putting it at the 75,000, 85,000, it just seems like that seems more Republican than Democrat. And trust me, the moderate Democrats in the Senate are basically Republicans. They really are. But at the same time, and I say this, and I mean, it's just no other way to say this. When you have moderate Democrats playing Republicans in the Senate versus progressives who are pushing these ideas forward, they're always going to be running to Affleck. Just because, like I said, modern Democrats they want to follow this rule of, well, we don't want everybody to get it. You are millionaires that basically will still be gaining money long after you left the Senate. And a millionaire, that's why I keep on telling people, a millionaire is telling us what we don't need. Not everybody deserves a $1,400 check. No, we actually deserve continuous checks. Because it's amazing. Bernie Sanders said this a long time ago that you should have gave us $2,000 every month until the coronavirus is over. Y'all said we couldn't do that. And then you turn around and gave out, well, here's a $1,200 check. This will help, right? And then, 3 or 4 months later, here's $600. This will help, right? So now almost 2 months now, which honestly, if this bill passes, we probably will not see a stimulus check until April. It is amazing to me the time span in between months that a single amount of money they believe is going to help, when no, it needs to be continuous. And the employment benefits that people have should not be expired. It's amazing that was actually supposed to last well into this year, and they're capping it off in August. Again, this goes back to all I've sat there and said was just that Democrats have the ability to push things through. They just need to go ahead and do so. But they also have to be on the same page. If they are not on the same page, this is going to happen. So again, we really shouldn't be surprised. But you know what else is surprising though? That Capitol Hill actually followed some instructions after getting some information.
The FBI and Capitol Police warning of new threats against the government. Investigators uncovering a possible plot by militias to again target the Capitol today. ABC News obtaining an internal bulletin from Capitol Police stating an unidentified group of militia violent extremists had discussed plans to take control of the U.S. Capitol and remove Democratic lawmakers.
People are deeply concerned about what potential threats could be out there.
The threat is linked to a far-right conspiracy theory pushed by QAnon, falsely claiming Trump will return to Washington today. The claims are false. The security measures are real. Barbed wire and fencing surrounding the Capitol. National Guard members with heavy military vehicles on duty. Roads closed.
We have enhanced our security posture. We've taken immediate steps to let the National Guard as well as our workforce know what to expect.
It's a stark difference from what was seen on January 6th. Lawmakers this week holding hearings.
You have insurrectionists going through the police lines. You are on the phone, and they're not immediately approving your request.
Drilling down on why it took the Pentagon over 3 hours to approve the D.C. National Guard to move in and back up Capitol Police on the day of the attack.
The Army senior leaders did not think that it looked good. It would be a good optic.
Members of Congress pointing to the summer when the killing of unarmed black men led to protests. The National Guard stood ready.
Was the issue of optics ever brought up by Army leadership when the D.C. National Guard was deployed during the summer of 2020?
It was never discussed.
Now, the Senate will remain in session today to...
I just love that look for that split second that news anchor was like, bruh. It was short. It was short, but I love the fact it's just that one moment of realism where he was like, bruh, come on now. But again, yes, the Capitol was on lockdown March 4th because basically, again, they decided to actually follow the right thing because, of course, a lot of people were sitting there saying, oh, something's going to happen on March the 4th. They're going to try to take over. They're going to try to take over the Capitol. Donald Trump is still going to come back and take the presidency, and America's going to be great again. Of course, it did not happen. But again, it looks like the Capitol is not taking anything for granted, considering they didn't do so on January 6th. But they did so this week and locked that place down. And of course, the Senate sessions were stopped for a day. But again, that just goes to show you that see what happens when you have to take everybody seriously. You just can't take Donald Trump supporters and QAnon supporters and no longer see them as harmless. So now that you know that what they're capable of, it's like, okay, now we're going to make some changes. If only you did that from Jump Street. And also, like I said, I was talking about COVID, the stimulus bill from Biden. One thing, unfortunately, was removed from the bill, and I think this was a great flaw. But yes, they did take out the $15 minimum wage amendment, and of course, we know why. Democrats
are urging the Biden administration to overrule the Senate parliamentarians' decision to not include a $15 minimum wage provision in the budget reconciliation package. If the parliamentarian is overruled, at least 60 senators would need to vote against the provision to prevent it from being included in the relief bill. Several Senate Democrats have said they plan to join Republicans in voting against it. For more on this, let's bring in Sean McElwee. He's the co-founder and executive director of Data for Progress, a strategy.
And I just want to stop it there because it goes into a different discussion about the minimum wage. But yes, the bill that included the minimum wage did pass in the House, and of course in the Senate. And this was the most messed up part about this: that Senate Democrats, along with Republicans, were voting against the $15 minimum wage act. I cannot stress this enough. Republicans, I expect that. Republicans are perfectly okay with keeping the working class poor. Actually, dirt poor. They are completely okay with that. But the simple fact of the matter is that Democrats who ran on this platform of raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, although it really should be $23 now because of inflation, they ran on this platform, and then when the bill finally gets to the Senate, to where they can all sit there and say in one voice, let's just pass it. Again, moderate Democrats are agreeing with Republicans saying that we shouldn't raise it now. And of course, they spouted GOP propaganda. If we raise the minimum wage, it kills jobs. If we raise the minimum wage, it'll set us back. If we raise the minimum wage, companies will start cutting jobs. So again, I said this before and I've said it again. When you basically pay people, when you pay the lower classes more money, the economy thrives. Because that's the thing about it. And I actually have an article about guaranteed income, which I'll talk about momentarily. But $15 an hour is better than $7.29. Because if you leave it at $7.29, that gives these companies out here carte blanche, and other companies, I mean, not just corporations, mind you, all companies in the U.S. can sit there and go, well, I just pay you the minimum wage. I can pay you $7.29 and keep a bigger piece of the pie for myself. But hey, at least you're employed. No, because nobody virtually anywhere can live on a job that pays you $7.29 an hour. I mean, you're basically one half step above prison at this rate. You basically are like working in a prison, except you're not sentenced. That's it. But again, I ask this question to all senators out there, all representatives, and all those that work in legislation. Can you honestly say that $15 an hour will be bad? We are in 2021, and yet $15, and yet we're still $7.29. But that just tells you that some people in Congress are okay with keeping the working class poor, because $15 an hour was a mainstay for a lot of these Democrats. And for some odd reason, once they got elected, they seem to forget that the one thing they actually did work. They seem to forget that the one thing that they campaigned on, when it finally comes to the door, that they just decide to go ahead and just say, we don't need it. Y'all don't need it. It is amazing to me. That's why I say Democrats alone. And trust and believe, the ones that did vote against it, they should be blasted. Because that's going to make it difficult, especially for the midterms. The midterms are in 2022. So unless a lot of the stuff that Biden and Harris are trying to push through gets passed, I don't see the Democrats holding their majority at this point. Because you basically just did a whole lot of hot air for a year and a half. But again, this is still Biden's first term. He can still turn around and still press Nancy Pelosi to do a separate bill to introduce it. He can also press Chuck Schumer to bring it up to the Senate. But he can also sit there and say the Democrats need to get in line, just like the Republicans do when they want to get something passed. Everybody toes the party line. Democrats can learn to take a lesson from the Republicans in that. But again, like I said before, I was talking about guaranteed income and the minimum wage, and people forget there was an experiment about that. There was a city in California that was starting an experiment of guaranteed income, in which they basically gave 125 people who actually made less than $47,000 a year. They gave them $500 a month through a prepaid debit card as additional income, and they could spend it however they wanted to. What they found out was that the people that they gave money to thrived. There was not a negative incantation. People who were working part-time jobs were able to just work one full-time job. A lot of people were able to, spend more time with their families. From a mental health standpoint, mental health has improved. That there were less cases of mental health with these individuals, and that every individual that was talking sat there and said that yes, that $500 did help, and it actually did improve the way of life. So again, it amazes me so about this story. Now keep in mind, this is just one city. 125 people had volunteered to take this program, but guaranteed income works. Guaranteed income works. I mean, to me, I've always sat there and said guaranteed income works. But on even like a scale like this, it's hard to argue with the numbers. You can tell and see that it works, really and truly. What does that mean for the country? As I said before, I really do believe that jobs are, as automation moves forward, less jobs will appear. and that eventually that you're going to have to consider a universal basic income. You're gonna have to eventually consider it, and it's gonna have to become part of the budget. And trust me, for as much as we pay the military, we can turn around and actually do universal basic income for all Americans. We really truly could. But moving right along, guys. Elaine Chow is in the crosshairs of a certain watchdog group for the Inspector General because they basically are pretty much saying that she used her office for her own gain. Say it ain't so. Keep in mind, Elaine Chow is the wife of Moscow Mitch McConnell. As they said before, and like I said before, I'm not surprised with Mitch just because he's already looking for his eggs on the way out, and I would not be surprised if you follow the money. There's plenty of corruption there. But the report from the Justice Department says that Chow used her staff and office for personal tasks and to promote a shipping business owned by Chow's fathers and sisters, which could violate federal ethics rules. That company does extensive business with China, so she could have used her position to help out her family. Yes, because what other politician that we know doesn't actually use their influences, things of that nature, to allow their family to flourish and gain money in a country where people are suffering? Except the previous administration. But we'll follow that story, like I said before. I'm not surprised if she is found, because, of course, like every politician, she is denying all wrongdoing. But I just would not be surprised, the simple fact of the matter, if she is found that, yes, you did actually use the office for your own gain. But then again, Trump did. His kids did. The majority of his administration did. So I guess she was just following the company model at the time. But again, aside from that, just to sexually see some justice, if she is found of it, then she could be brought up on charges, and that'll be an interesting circus in itself. Speaking of a circus, because a lot of people are kind of worried about the Derek Chauvin case that is supposed to be starting. Well, there have been some updates to that actual story.
The former police officer involved in the death of George Floyd. NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams joins us now. That trial is supposed to start with jury selection on Monday. What's happened today?
Well, it may not start on Monday, Andrea, if this gets appealed. So Derek Chauvin's lawyers had argued that one of the charges against him should be thrown out, a charge of third-degree murder. They said that can only be applied when someone dies as a result of police use of force and somebody else dies as well, and that wasn't the situation here, so that charge can't be used. The trial judge agreed, but an appeals court in Minnesota just said, nope, that's not the case. The charge can be used, and sent the case back to the trial court. But Chauvin's lawyers can appeal this to the state Supreme Court, and if they do, that could delay the start of the trial. So as of now, the state is able to try again to get the third-degree murder charge reinstated, but at the same time, Chauvin's lawyers could appeal.
So basically what's going on is just that, of course, Derek Chauvin was set to face his trial for the murder of George Floyd, which would have been actually this Monday, actually. But because the third-degree murder charge that his lawyers are sitting there saying that he should not be charged with, and of course it's going through appeals and things of that nature, it's basically keeping the actual court process from happening. Now, it is fairly obvious that he should face the third-degree murder charge because, yes, his actions did lead to the death of George Floyd. However, his lawyers are basically using stall tactics, so not really surprised from there that for the simple fact of the matter that they're going to sit there and use everything they can, because once the trial starts, it's going to be very difficult to basically convince a jury, especially with that video of him being out there with his neck on his back and he can't breathe. And the whole idea of it all is they're trying to get Derek Chauvin. He's going to get a fair trial. Everybody deserves a fair trial. But it is fairly obvious the man is a murderer and should be guilty. So we'll see how that goes once they actually get the actual third-degree murder charge figured out, which, again, more than likely it probably will stick. Now, I know I talked about Democrats a little bit in this podcast, but I do have to give them credit for two things, specifically the House. Number one, the Democrats have passed the H.R. 1 bill, which basically is the Voting Rights Act. Now, for a lot of people that don't know what the Voting Rights Act is about, it's basically a For the People Act. It basically will expand voting rights and curb money in politics. Now, it did not say about that. That's the one thing I didn't like about that, where it sat there and said, we are going to expand voting rights and curb the influence of money in politics. And that means that, of course, voting rights means automatic voter registration, transparent requirements for political advertising, and also to end partisan gerrymandering, which means rezoning of districts, depending on actually how the votes would handle. So I like the fact that they are doing a national system for automatic voter registration. The one thing I wish they did include, that all elections should be federal holidays, because nobody should have to worry about having to go to work, but also wanting to do their civic duty and vote. That was the one thing I wish was in the HR 1 bill, but that's fine. Eventually I think that's going to come along. Also, with that being said, when they said hold the money in politics, here's the thing about that. The money in politics thing was really more along the lines of Citizens United. Excuse me. So Citizens United, for all those that don't know or don't remember, Citizens United actually happened around Bush 2.0, which basically ruled that a corporation or just a political group can give money and not have to report themselves or report any financial holdings, basically making making lobbying easier. And I hated Citizens United because ever since then, all these other PACs have popped up and were basically just pulling money. At the time, was handing it to Republicans and Trump fans alike. So I kind of wish that in that case, with this HR 1 bill and for the People's Voting Rights Act, that they did turn around and ban lobbying. I think lobbying needs to be banned. I think lobbying needs to be illegal. It needs to be really a felony if caught. But again, these are small steps. Now it's up to the Senate on whether or not to approve them. Also, the House did approve the policing bill, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which again is actually heading to the Senate as well, in which it did do two things. Well, it actually did a couple of things, honestly. It bans chokeholds and alters the qualified immunity for law enforcement, and it also did ban no-knock warrants and a bevy of other things. Now, with this if I could say words, that'd be great today. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I do dig it. I really do, because again, it's going to ban chokeholds, no-knock warrants, and qualified immunity. For all those that don't know, qualified immunity is what law enforcement people do have whenever they're involved in action. So eventually, if they do shoot an individual, they do not have to turn around and be questioned that day. They can actually take several days to think about it and then come back and give their statement. Versus a person who's not a cop that shoots somebody on the same night has to give a statement. They're not given that same leeway. Cops at this time can still talk with each other about the events before giving their statement. I mean, there's a list of other things with qualified immunity that they can do, but that's just a sliver of it. And I've always sat there and said that's a problem, because again, in any case, if you look at law enforcement, they are always given the benefit of the doubt, and that's always been the problem. But again, we'll see how it goes once it gets to the Senate, because I'm kind of curious to see if the Senate's really going to hold that up. Sorry guys, we got some breaking news. Wow. So the Senate, as I'm saying this, guys, give me a second here. I think we do got some breaking news. Let's see something.
Good morning, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. In today's update, the U.S. Capitol is on high alert as the FBI warns of a serious threat from right-wing.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so actually, let me see something, because I did see something. Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not a video yet. I do apologize. But it looks like as of 10 minutes ago, the Senate has passed Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package after a floor vote. The package includes direct payments. Yeah, we already know that. By a vote of 50 to 49. A vote of 50 to 49. So let's think about this. So 4 to 50 to 49. That means that they had one Republican join them. I can only think at the 50 to 49. That tells me that somebody on the Republican side had to vote for it. because usually if it was a 50-50, they would announce that Kamala Harris would have been the tiebreaker. But it looks like in this case, by a vote of 50-49, the Biden $1.9 trillion relief package has passed, which means that it should be hitting Biden's desk sometime next week. Not actually sure as far as to when they're going to make that enacted. But at this point, the $1.9 trillion COVID American Rescue Plan definitely has been passed. So we are going to actually see some relief. Like I said, it'll probably hit Biden's desk sometime next week. And from there, like I said, you're probably gonna, if you really do want your $1,400 check, it is probably gonna be hitting your desk sometime between guessing end of April, beginning of March at this rate. But anyway, speaking of those things, I'm sorry guys, I know I got a little bit loose in my podcast. I just want to present that news because I was actually following that. Excuse me. So getting back to the stories I got, guys, I love the fact that, of course, reparations are being talked about again. But there is actually a city in Illinois, Evanston, Illinois, that's actually doing something about reparations. Check this out.
For the reparations?
I will, yeah.
And why?
Because it's old.
This is my home. It's where I live. I love it. My people are here. This community was redlined historically, and that has come along with damages that continue today. Resources were stripped away from the Black community, and that stripped away a sense of place and wealth as well. We've been doing the work, and the work that we've done has not produced any relief in the racial disparities that we have. And it was appropriate that we do something radically different to make good on the commitment that we've made to the Black community. And reparations was the next thing for us to do.
I am 98 years old.
We moved to Evanston in 1959.
The contractor, he said, so it's completely out. He said, you find a lot anywhere in Evanston, and I'll build whatever you want. Well, when he said that, he meant in the Black neighborhoods. It was just the way it was. And as we speak, in 2021, we still have these same types of problems.
My hope is that families that are currently living here right now today that are burdened get some relief and build some wealth through our reparation program.
It's certainly a starter, but you look at housing prices today, is that a down payment?
It's a drop in the bucket. You have denied me all my 98 years. Hopefully, before I die, I'll see the world change.
And get some reparations.
And get some reparations, right.
So for you, this notion of reparations in Evanston isn't meant to be a drop in the bucket, but the beginning of a stream that becomes a river, that becomes an ocean.
When I introduced reparations in Evanston, it was always the first step of many to come. There is a lifetime of work ahead of me and my children for us to get to justice for the Black community. And I can't wait to celebrate the family that receives their first reparation benefit. I cannot wait for that day.
Now, of course, that documentary, Soul of a Nation, is actually on ABC and on Hulu. So so I definitely would recommend watching that. But yes, Evanston, Illinois is actually beginning this experiment because they're taking a 3% tax on marijuana sales to actually introduce reparations for Black folks. by making up to $25,000 in eligible eligible housing. So it means that up to $25,000, a person can actually be a first-time homeowner. There is nothing wrong with that. I think it's a very noble idea. That amazingly enough, that there are black people in office who are pushing for reparations, or at least getting something going. Because I have always sat there and said this: are black people do reparations? Forgive my language. Hell yes, we are. Hell yeah, we are. Here's the thing, because a lot of people will turn around to there and say, "But you're not a slave." No, but we're descendants. We're descendants of slaves. Well, you didn't know. Why do you think you deserve it? I said the same reason why white folks got a 400-year head start on us. They got a head start on us because of our ancestors. I think it's now for us to get our turn. And again, I've always said this about reparations. It's very simple. Cut the check. America has a history of cutting the check for reparations for other minority groups out there. But when it comes to black people, oh, wait a minute. We gotta think about how we do this. I mean, we just can't give you money. Really? You did it for everybody else, and you can't do it for us. And my thing about this, as I've said before, again, not to take away from what Evanston, Illinois is doing. Not trying to take away from that. I think it's very great. But the very older gentleman sat there and said it best. He said, "Man, that's a drop in the bucket." And he sat there and saying, "I said, you've been denying me for 98 years." He says, "And before I die, I hope I finally get what I'm owed." And you could feel what that man was saying. That man turned around, sat there, and said it best. He said, "Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket, but again, I've said this best. You are not going to get ahead or get reparations with older white people still in certain positions." This is why I sat there and said, the only way reparations can happen is that we have to change the local, the state, and the national outlook. Because right now, it's looking like the senior leadership of a very Fortune 500 company, all white. Maybe one or two black people sprinkled in there for just to beat that HR minority check. But aside from that, you're not gonna change the culture. So again, this is why I sit there and say, for the simple fact of the matter, in order for us to get reparations, we have to affect our local government, our state government, and our national. Once we infiltrate, I hate to say infiltrate, but once we do, and finally get our voices in those areas, in all three areas, not just the legislative and executive branches of government, but we also have to do the states as well. Once we finally get the people in there that can make this happen, then reparations will happen, and then we'll be saying, cut the check. But again, I'm not trying to take away from what Evanston, Illinois. Thank you for watching me this far, because apparently my tongue does not want to work today. But Evanston, Illinois is one of those groups, like I said before, is trying to do something, and of course, we still are waiting on our 40 acres and a mule 400 years later. Of course, I did want to tell the story. I actually want to do the Dr. Seuss story because, again, just some thoughts on that after all the hoopla has died down. But for all that don't know, there's going to be some books that just aren't available anymore.
Over the decision to pull 6 Dr. Seuss books from publication because of racist and insensitive imagery. The sales of those books are now skyrocketing. TJ Holmes is here with that story for us. Good morning.
Robin, here, Dr. Seuss. People first think green eggs and ham, Cat in the Hat. They don't automatically think first about that other book that depicts a man with 2 slanted lines for eyes running around with a bowl of rice and chopsticks. Yes, that's in a Dr. Seuss book. And that's the type of offensive imagery they're trying to get out of there. And the announcement that they're doing so, well, it made Dr. Seuss yesterday's bestsellers.
Dr. Seuss books claimed 9 spots on Amazon's top 10 bestseller list overnight. Also, his books went from selling for a few bucks to hundreds of dollars on sites like eBay.
All this after the company that oversees Seuss's estate announced on Tuesday that several of the late author and illustrator's titles were being pulled from publication for their racist and insensitive imagery. Telling ABC News, Dr. Seuss Enterprises, working with a panel of experts, including educators, reviewed our catalog of titles and made the decision last year to cease publication and licensing of 6 stories, adding,
these books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong.
The books are just not representative of diversity. They don't show Black and brown characters. And when they do, they're in really negative, stereotypical ways that dehumanize Black and brown people, people of color, show them as subservient.
One of those tossed out titles, If I Ran the Zoo, came under fire for its offensive illustration of African and Asian people. In light of the concerns, the publisher says it remains committed to sharing messages of hope and inclusion. Ceasing sales of these books is only part of our commitment and our broader plan to ensure Dr. Seuss Enterprises catalog represents and supports all communities and families.
And guys, there were a lot of people yesterday.
And this was a crazy part. I initially sat there and said on Facebook, I said, "Are we canceling Dr. Seuss now?" Because, like I said, I wanted to go back and really give the story time and just really read what's going on, because a lot of us do react to headlines. A lot of us do react to headlines because initially after this, before the story came out, that President Joe Biden was actually removing those books from the list of national reading books that he suggested, which again angered a lot of people. But when you really look at it, it's the fact that nobody is calling for Dr. Seuss. This was actually it was actually the Dr. Seuss Foundation that decided to remove these books. So again, when you hear that, it's like, okay, I don't understand the fake anger. I don't understand the anger at that point, because the foundation, the company himself, the company itself that actually publishes the books, decided to go ahead and actually remove said 6 books. Nothing wrong with that. That's like honestly going back and saying, okay, these books we can't do in this day and time, so we're gonna stop publishing them. Cool. A company that actually has accountability. I can't be mad about that. And that's why I sat there and thought about it. I was like, oh, okay, so we're not canceling it. It's just the idea that there are 6 books out there that are just not, that shouldn't be read. Cool. Nothing wrong with that. Finally, I was like, there's nothing wrong when a company takes accountability. It is amazing to me. Everybody's like, well, we can't read Dr. Seuss no more. No, you read the headline. You did like everybody else did. You read the headline and you didn't really read the article. And when you didn't really read the article, you got mad because you're thinking Dr. Seuss can't be read anymore. Are you kidding me? Dr. Seuss can still be read. It's just that certain books that do imply racial stereotypes are no longer being produced. But you know the funny part about that is, whenever something is rare, prices go up. And that's the reason why you're seeing those books that he used to, If I Ran the Zoo and a handful of other ones, that's the reason why they're skyrocketing on eBay. Why? Because now they just became rare collector items. Welcome to commerce. But I'm not knocking the Dr. Seuss Foundation for making that decision to stop producing those books. It's very smart. It is actually not only smart, but it's aware of sign of the times. Just because, for the simple fact of the matter, Dr. Seuss is still a wonderful author. He's got either multiple other books that you use: Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, One Fish, Two Fish, Blue Fish, Red Fish. Horton Hears a Who. You can go down the line of Dr. Seuss books that are still helpful and entertaining. But yes, there are a few books out there that was from a racist time that just never should see the light of day again. Completely okay with that. Beyond that, something else I've noticed, racial bias in the workplace. If you're like me and you're black and you got hair like this, you notice racial bias anywhere. Even more so, it does not matter this day and age. The more I've noticed this, as you're black, and no matter what your position is, no matter how high you get up, you will still unfortunately be seen for your skin color by others. Like this one doctor who is suing Tulane University for exactly that.
And only black female residency program director in the history of Tulane School of Medicine.
It came with a lot of weight, but it also came with what I began to see, a pattern of exclusion and a pattern of abuse.
In October 2020, Dr. Princess Dinner filed a federal lawsuit accusing Tulane of discrimination and creating a, quote, race and gender-based hostile environment for her and her students.
Minority residents, particularly black and brown residents, were being evaluated very differently.
Among other allegations, Dinner's lawsuit claims residents from minority backgrounds were forced to take on a, quote, more difficult rotation schedule than their white classmates.
They were burdened with not having an equitable educational experience in comparison to their white counterparts.
Less than 5 months after her suit was filed, Dinner was suspended from her leadership position after 13 years in the role.
The first people I think I thought about were my residents. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to them? Who's going to stand up for them?
But overnight, the school reversing course. Lee Ham, the dean of Tulane School of Medicine, issued a statement reading in part, "After careful consideration, yesterday evening I offered to end the interim suspension and restore Dr. Dinner as program director of MedPeds. This offer is predicated on Dr. Dinner's acceptance of several support mechanisms to help ensure issues reviewed do not reoccur." Adding, quote, "I am committed to our important work to end racial disparities in the health system and believe that Tulane must be part of the solution." Dr. Dinner says she plans to review the offer with her attorney, but added racism and sexism have not been addressed in the offer. Issues that Dinner says came up even before she landed the position.
During the interview, the chairman, who at the time and now the current dean, made a remark to me, and that remark was that we don't want to change the face of Tulane, and that white applicants, medical students, would not follow or rank favorably a program that has a black program director.
The dean of Tulane's med school denied allegations of discrimination and unfair treatment.
If you don't value someone as powerful as Dr. Dinner, how can we be convinced right now in medical school that at some point you will value us? You could just cancel Dr. Dinner after all she's accomplished, after all she's done. Who are we?
Third-year med student Russell Leday organized this now viral photo, 15 black doctors in training on a Louisiana plantation. An inspiration, he hopes, for the next generation.
We need more doctors in our city. We specifically need more black doctors in our city.
And, Dinner says, in medical schools.
Black women physicians are either being pushed out or they're leaving academia.
Only 5% of all doctors in the U.S. are black. The percent who teach in medical schools is even lower, at 3.6%, according to a report by the American Association of Medical Colleges.
We have a lot more work to do in terms of valuing diversity and what diverse people bring to leadership positions.
The controversy has attracted national attention thanks in part to an online campaign calling on med students to boycott or, quote, do not rank Tulane when rating residency programs. Experts fear this could hurt students and patients in the predominantly black city of New Orleans.
We got some black people at Tulane who are pretty vulnerable there now. We have black students there who need support. We have black patients there who need to see black doctors. So I personally am concerned about a campaign to say, okay, now let's have no black people go there until they straighten this out. I'm concerned that that is putting, to some extent, the blacks who are there, the black patients and the black trainees at risk.
Capers says real change must come from within.
The best way to hold our academic medical centers accountable will be with accreditation and then ultimately with funding. Diversifying medicine is an excellence initiative. We're not doing it because we like to see diversity in the graduation photo. It makes us better.
Why did you stay so long and endure all of this? Why?
I'm human. And so there are many times I wanted to walk away. And I thought about my 4 daughters. I thought about them living in a world who they also want to be physicians, living in a world where they didn't have to go through what I'm going through. And I stayed because I don't want them to have to fight this fight.
Says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, Tulane doctor was filing discrimination, and it's kind of funny how the school sat there and said, "Oh, no, okay, so we're just gonna get rid of you." And then in the middle of it, reverse decision and say, "Oh, well, we want to get you back to your position with some conditions." And you know what that tells me? That tells me that we want you back because we know if you leave, then we're not going to be seen as an equal opportunity school. Which, let's be honest, if you guys have ever seen a college brochure, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us have, but let's be honest, outside of HBCUs, do you remember what other colleges applications look like? UCLA, Johns Hopkins, Penn State, Harvard, Purdue, Ohio State, Florida, North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Iowa, Kansas, Villanova. I mean, I can keep going, but for all those that remember college brochures, did you remember the person that you saw in that? Because I do. White people. It's like unless you went to an HBCU, it never showed a black person on the front of a college brochure. But we're somewhere in the middle because you got to add that diversity. You're probably the black dude walking with a white woman or walking with a group of people because it can't be shown as a black person either on the front of the brochure or by themselves as a way of an accomplished individual that's just seeking higher education. So why is that important? Because representation matters. It has always mattered. And the Dr. Denmar in this case immediately gets it. That, of course, if you have discrimination and bias in a workplace that's supposed to be about medicine, one of the greatest professions out there, and you have people there being trained to be doctors, and again, if they're still facing the same racial bias and discrimination, then what do you expect? Like you just said, there are so many of us who are not doctors, and very few of us who are not teaching doctors. So again, it's like, I just disagree with the doctor at the end where he sat there and said, well, the only way we could defeat this is by changing from within. I'm like, yes, but do you also know how you change it from within? You start exposing the cracks, in which they did, which a whole bunch of students which do not register Tulane as a residency. Residencies hurt these universities because, again, money comes from those residencies. And if you don't have the money and also at the same time, optics-wise, you don't have enough diversity there, people are going to start avoiding you. Tulane knew what was going on. It's like, okay, so this very prominent doctor is basically shining a light on everything that we do. And I have been saying this before when it comes to black doctors. Black doctors, it's like black doctors, especially black women do not get the medical care that they deserve from doctors in this country. Actually, for black women, the chances of them surviving a childbirth actually increase when there's a black doctor around. It actually decreases with any other doctor that's been around them. Black women are more susceptible to go to a doctor's office if the doctor is black, basically understand them, versus any other race in which they might get passed off or might get ignored or things of that nature that they're trying to let the doctor know that's what's going on. Again, representation matters. So with that being said, I'm not surprised about Tulane because, like I said, the other actual article that I go into also deals with racial bias. Even more so, your name.
Shanique Wright believes her name may have kept her from getting job offers. When the family therapist put out a resume using the nickname Charlie, she received more callbacks than when she used her first name.
It seems like it's a little bit difficult for people to either remember my name or pronounce it correctly or remember to pronounce it correctly. And so they would often ask for, well, what's your middle name? What's your, do you have a nickname? Which definitely makes me feel ashamed of my name at times.
In one study, job applicants with ethnic-sounding names were 50% less likely to receive a callback than those with white-sounding names.
The unfortunate fact is that a lot of professionals are starting to feel like that they have to whiten their resume or remove racial descriptors from their resumes.
Andrew McCaskill is a career expert with LinkedIn, which found 25% of black professionals feel they would face retaliation for speaking out about race and inclusion at work.
Black professionals overwhelmingly responded that things that were barriers to their advancement were not having access to mentorship and sponsorship, not feeling a sense of belonging in the workplace, and finally just feeling like that there was no path for them for advancement.
Zachary Nunn says he had to compete harder than white colleagues for the same promotion.
If you're not letting Black and brown folks make actual decisions that can impact systemic change, you're not doing anything.
Research from 2019 found Black Americans only made up 3.2% of senior leadership roles at large companies, even though 81% of those surveyed said seeing Black professionals in leadership makes the workplace feel more inclusive. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Oh, okay. Well, folks, there you have it. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is your name, your hairstyle, and I say it best because I mean, like I said, they feel like for certain Black professionals feel like they have to whiten up. Yeah, we do, especially for positions that we want, for positions that we go for. Do you not think, for the simple fact of the matter, what they always say? Now, I'm not saying about dress. You gotta dress for the job you want. No argument there. But if you're like me and you dress very nicely, but you have, when you have this, trust me, don't get me wrong, I'm proud of this, okay? I know my hair needs to be retwisted, it's happening, but I'm proud of this, okay? This is great. I love it. I can do this. I can swing my hair around. I am happy about that. And again, it's part of me. My hair is a symbol of, and my hair is a part of me. It makes me feel great about it. It makes me feel great that I have this. I cannot tell you how many times that I've seen a look in an employer's face when they see my hair and immediately think, "Oh yeah, you're not what we need." I've actually heard it. I'm not gonna say the job or company that sat there and said this, but a very one-time CEO was sitting in an interview with me, and he looked at me and he didn't say anything as the interviewer was asking me questions. I thought the interview was going great. And I'll never forget this for as long as I live. The CEO sat there and says, "I have one question. Would you ever cut your hair?" And I said very succinctly, "No, I'm not going to cut my hair. I actually like my hair." He leans back and he goes, "Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to know." Now, of course, I didn't wind up getting the job, but I just thought it was interesting that the CEO at the time of a major company would ask me, would I cut my hair? And to this day, no, I still wouldn't cut my hair. Because even if I didn't have my hair, even if I didn't have this, even if I was bald, which I was bald for a short time, but even if I was bald, I have actually learned that, again, what that article has sat there and said made so much sense, that there is racial bias. That, we do have to sound, I'm not going to say whiten up ourselves, but we kind of do. We have to get more soft-spoken. We have to be more appealing and appeasing. We have to show, all this, it's almost like sucking up, if in a way. But that's what you have to do. Because why? Because, as I said before, it actually was pointed out by so many other people, look at the leaderships of most of these companies, and you'll maybe find one or two Black people. It's almost like they have to have, for every one Black person you have in senior leadership, there has to be 10 white people, because you still have to have that overbalance. You still have to have that imbalance. I don't know why, because even the job I work at, even the job that I currently work at, I look at senior leadership and I'm just like, it's all male. I mean, they'll sit there and say, to fill the diversity quota, yeah, we might have a Black person, we might have a Native American, we might have a Chinese, we might have an Asian or a Chinese person, or, going down the list, because that's how HRs and corporate think. They have to have, if they check mark all these boxes, they cannot get sued. That's what legal tells them. So, again, like I said, especially with names, like I already said it best, one of my future children, if I have a boy, I'm naming him Hercules, or Samson, or Goku. But again, the name itself should not prevent anything. Like I said, I used to say to people, like, they made some crazy names, but like I said, your mom or dad gave you that name for a reason. but it shouldn't be used against you when you're just simply trying to move forward. They keep on talking about, conservatives always keep talking about, well, you can, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, work hard and you'll get to where you're going to get to. But it's hard to work hard when they've already set up the goal line and they keep pushing it back every time you get a little bit closer. So again, I'm not surprised by that, because even with my name is cool because my name itself, of course, will being my name, a lot of them just assume I'm white. So of course when they see me, it's like, oh, I thought he was, they don't say it out loud, but it's like, oh, I thought he was a, go ahead and finish that sentence because I know that's what you're going to say. But moving right along, guys, last story I got before we get to our feel-good segment. Again, I wanted to bring this up. There's a story I'm following in Alabama where Amazon warehouse is trying to form a union, which I still think is pretty cool.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning. Hundreds of thousands of Amazon employees are watching one of the most significant unionization drives in a generation. Workers at an Amazon warehouse near Birmingham, Alabama, are voting on whether to join a retail workers union. Their colleagues around the country are wondering how that will affect them. Mark Strassman is at that fulfillment center in Bessemer, Alabama, where he spoke to some of the workers. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Anthony. In 2 shifts a day here, 5,800 workers sort, package, and ship the sort of Amazon boxes that many of us get delivered at home. They make more than $15 an hour, which is more than double the minimum wage. But some of them tell us the company refuses to hear their complaints and frustrations. Michael Foster is a union organizer, and early this morning we found him outside the Amazon warehouse at Shift Change, where he's campaigned for votes since last October.
Amazon is treating the people disrespectful. They basically telling the people, if you don't want to abide by the way we work, you can go find another job somewhere else.
According to the union, roughly 85% of the workers at this massive warehouse are black. Most are women. Many complain about grueling work, unsafe conditions, with inadequate bathroom and meal breaks.
We're being treated like we're prisoners who's there to get a job done.
Jennifer Bates and Daryl Richardson both work at the warehouse.
What's your biggest frustration there?
Job security, respect, and your safety, well-being.
The community don't realize is what's going on behind the curtain. What are the people there going through just to make sure that we get our packages?
It's time for us to make a stand. It's time for some changes.
Frustrated workers contacted the retail, wholesale, and department store union. Celebrities like Danny Glover support them.
Martin Luther King said the best anti-poverty program he knew of was the union. And that still remains so, more than 60 years after he made that statement.
And this week, President Biden weighed in.
Every worker should have a free and fair choice to join a union.
But they are Amazon, and this is Alabama. The e-commerce behemoth is fighting the union drive in this right-to-work state. In a statement, the company told us if the union vote passes, it will impact everyone at the site, and it's important associates understand what that means for them and their day-to-day life working at Amazon. Amazon worker Dawn Hogue will vote no.
And I have yet to personally encounter anyone that is pro-union. I do not see a point in paying somebody to do something I'm fully capable to do for myself, and that being advocating.
But the union believes these workers need a voice, and they'll deliver the votes despite long odds.
If you put enough heart in anything that you do, you can do anything.
Even in Alabama?
Even in Alabama. We have not been able to organize in Alabama as we wish we could, but things are meant to change.
This is a vote by mail and will go on until March 29th. The union expects this to be a close vote, but whichever side wins, the loser could challenge the outcome. Tony?
All right, Mark, thank you.
Now, don't get me wrong, I think that's an interesting, like I said, Amazon itself does need to have a union because I've said this before, unions do actually help. If it wasn't for unions, you wouldn't have a 40-hour work week. You wouldn't actually have paid time off. You wouldn't have insurance coverage. You wouldn't have a lot of things if it wasn't for unions. And Amazon is one of those online retailers that has gotten by through life not having a union. and just putting in insane work requirements on individuals. So yes, as I watch this vote, as this vote is actually coming up, I do hope that these people that work at Amazon do vote to form a union. But it's amazing to me the comment from Amazon's head part that if they form a union, that the workers know and the people there know what'll happen. That is the most subtle threat I've ever heard from a corporation. So again, I gotta tell you guys, there was another department, another company I worked at. I won't say the name, but I just know that the CEO hated the word union. Like, for the simple fact of the matter, the supervisors and managers there sat there and said, if I almost said his name, I came that close to saying his name. If the CEO of this company ever heard us say union, that he would turn around and shut down our site and move it somewhere else. He hated that word. And to this day, because that company is still there, they don't have a union. And I've always sat there and said that those union tactics and scaring people and getting them to just bend, just to bend their will and things of that nature, it shouldn't happen. So I do hope they get a union. And I do hope Amazon is forced to fight this union, because that will make things change. Because things need to change in Amazon. Trust me, as I've been inside one of their warehouses. It is insane the level of production they want people to do outside of bathroom breaks, current breaks, and lunches and things of that nature. And again, if you've seen an Amazon driver, trust me, some of those drivers need to really get CDL licenses for the way they drive those Mercedes trucks around. Because trust me, it is crazy about that company. Even though a lot of us use it, myself included, just because of the fact of the matter that COVID and we can get things that we need easier from there. It's unfortunately a way of life. But Amazon should have unions, and those unions can help protect people. So we'll be following that story as it goes along. So that's really all the stories that I got, guys. We're going to go into our feel-good news segment, because like you on How the Frack we got here, we do cover a lot of news, some good, some bad, sometimes really, really dark. But it's the weekend, and some of us are not working. That's good, and some of you are working. At least something to pride you over. But we try, find some positive, happy stories, give you a little bit of restoring a little bit of faith in humanity. And I played this one on Wednesday, and I just had to play it again because this guy's story is just incredible.
A year of COVID has led to a surge of violent carjackings in several cities. Here in Chicago, the frequency of the crime more than doubled in 2020 to about 4 a day. As CBS's Charlie DeMar reports, one man is trying to help victims 4 wheels at a time.
In Chicago, more than 1,400 people were carjacked last year, a crime that spiked in cities across the country.
And then the guy told me not to turn around, to give him the keys.
Edward Padilla knows the pain. His car was stolen at gunpoint, his life put on hold.
I felt a gun behind my back, and the guy telling me to get out the car.
I got to ask you why.
Man, I just, me being a victim of being carjacked, my heart went out to him.
Jermaine Jordan says he's been carjacked 3 times. He owns a car dealership, a car wash,
You waiting on free food and groceries?
and runs a charity that feeds and houses the homeless on Chicago's west side.
There's like a new empathy, man, of kindness. It just like, man, flooded your heart to be able to want to help someone else. And it feel good.
The trauma of being a victim never left Jordan, so he decided charity might be the best medicine. He's given away 15 cars to other carjacking victims so far, all of them complete strangers. The cars are paid for with a combination of his own money and funds he raises on social media.
Tires are brand new, brakes, everything.
Edward Padilla drove off in a Chevy.
And he's like, well, that's your car. I think that Jermaine's like a sent angel to help us out.
An angel?
Yeah, that's what I consider him, an angel.
That new car did more than get that father of 4 back on the road.
Like, you don't have to worry about anything. Just get in and pull off.
You wanted to help?
Yes, I wanted to help.
I appreciate Jermaine, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Along the ride, friendships forged through the bond of shared trauma. Charlie DeMar, CBS News, Chicago.
Says a lot, doesn't it? A man whose story started out being carjacked 3 times, and this guy owns a car dealership, grocery store, in a car wash, and he helps out people by giving them free cars if they've been carjacked, or giving out food. That itself, when you see stuff like that, taking something very negative, because nobody wants to lose something they worked hard for. I mean, I would be heartbroken, if it came down to somebody wanting something from me, but they were threatening over my life. And I understand stuff can be replaced, human lives can't. But this individual turns around and actually starts being really being a blessing for others. And I thought that was cool. Just simple fact of the matter, he just says, "What do I owe?" He says, "Man, you don't owe anything. Just get in and drive off. It's all yours." It's you just get that is genuine kindness. It's random acts of kindness, but it's genuine kindness. I cannot knock that. Even more so, where I said before, these kids honestly get it. This child, third grader, wanted to help pay it forward by feeding the homeless. And the only reason that she's doing this was because of an encounter that she had with a homeless person. Because she actually had a birthday. She actually had a birthday, and her mom were walking out of a mall. And this homeless woman happened to notice the birthday crown that the child had on. And she turns around and the homeless person tells the girl happy birthday, and then gives her $20. Keep in mind, the homeless person did this. And then of course the parents were like, of course their mom was like, "No, it's okay." And then she goes, "No," the homeless person was like, "I just got $100, so here's $20, happy birthday." So that actually inspired the girl to turn around and figure out ways of trying to help feed the homeless. So her and her mom and her family raised money to purchase pizza, to purchase water and fruits and cleaning products. And they turned around and decided to do this thing. Let's see what they called it. They called it Pizza My Heart, in which they helped out the community on pizza, which is funny that the Pizza My Heart Day. And the only reason that the girl said it, "I wanted to help the community with Pizza My Heart Day because the homeless lady was nice to me on my birthday." A child thought this. And I thought to myself, a child who saw nothing more than a homeless person be nice to them on their birthday, inspired that child to sit there and say, "I want to help." I mean, it's one of those things where I just sit there and just go, it is amazing the effect that a person can have on a child, regardless of their status in life. And also at the same time, it just shows you that no matter where you are, you can still say happy birthday to a child, but you never can predict or expect what will happen next. And I always thought that part was cool. So the last story I got, guys, again, I like these lottery stories because I keep on saying, I'm not gonna say this. I play lottery. I do. Now, I keep on saying if I win, I already know what I'm gonna do. But but no, it's just that I love stories like this because I talked about last week how a lady was flying out of Vegas, won a $300,000 jackpot, and then she got on that flight as soon as humanly possible. I do not blame her. This story is about a retired Marine that actually won a lottery prize in North Carolina, and decided, instead of thinking about what they can do, they decided that they wanted to help others. So what they actually did was actually go around to others in the community, seeing how she can help. That they want to see about paying it forward to some people and some organizations around town. So I keep on saying she, I apologize. So they were basically, at this point, it's just basically help out in the community. And keep in mind, she won a $500,000 prize, which after taxes and whatnot was $353,751. Let me be completely honest about this. That's life-changing money. And of course, she did use some of it for herself, as far as, a family vacation, things like others. But she, again, when she had the means to help somebody, she decided, I keep on saying she, they decided, because I don't know if it's he or she, because they decided that they just wanted to help people. And again, when you have that mentality of just wanting to help individuals, it's amazing to me. It is amazing to me how a lot of folks can just sit there and go, you know what, I want to just take this money and just be effective to somebody. And I can say it myself. I've sat there and said many a times, if I ever get that far up in life, I would probably do that. But I mean, I would always take care of friends and family. Now, friends being a very limited, short number, and family would probably be immediate family. But then again, I would also make sure to take care of. I'd try to help people out, but at the same time, like I said, like I said, it's just that mindset that a lot of people have. That again, I dig, and I cannot say anything, but I cannot feel anything but positive vibes from that. So that's all the stories, and guys, that's all the stories we got for this week, guys. I certainly do appreciate it. Before I do get out of here, I do got to do some shameless plugging. The link at the bottom is the link to all of my shows. So if you copy and paste that into your browser, it'll take you to my link tree to where you'll be able to see the Facebook and YouTube groups for all of my podcasts. So definitely do like, share, and subscribe, whether on Facebook or YouTube, whatever, depending on your preference. You'll be able to see every podcast I've done this far there. Also, I do want to talk about my travel page. Yes, your boy does do travel. Uncle Obi's Adventures and More. What do? My mission in life is to basically get you where you want to get you to, and also save some money in your pocket. Because again, who doesn't like saving money? I know I do. So basically, you just tell me where you want to go, and I do the legwork for you. So all you gotta do is just pop out that paycheck, and then off you go. I mean, pop off your checkbook, and then off you go. But I definitely don't want you to use your paycheck, because again, I'm trying to save you money. That's my mission in life, because I have realized as I'm getting older, it is more and more important to take time out for yourself. It is more important to enjoy life. You don't want to be stuck behind your desk for a good majority of your life and wondering a time when. I know it's coronavirus is still out there. You still can travel. So basically, if you're traveling within state or out of country, I can help you with that. Want to get on a cruise? I can help you with that. Basically just give me a time, destination, and date, and I will do the legwork in making sure to get you the best deal humanly possible. Why? Because that's my job. Of course, Uncle Obi's Adventures and More, we just don't sell adventures, we sell great memories. And with that being said, guys, definitely go to my Facebook page at Uncle Obi's Adventures and More, as you can see there, or just reach out to me, William Buchanan, on Facebook, and we can go as far as booking your travel. I do have a $100 referral, which means that if you do book travel, if you recommend somebody and they book travel with me, that is $100 in your pocket. No restrictions, no limits. So if you know 100 people that want to travel and you know they can book with me, then it's going to be a very nice payday for you. So again, Uncle Obi's Adventures and More, where we don't just sell travel, we sell great memories. And also, I want to talk about my brother from a different mother, who will be returning very soon, and I can't wait because I know he's got a lot to say. I'm talking about my buddy Vaughn, BigBZA Dot on Facebook. If you're not friends, you should be friends with him because he's friendly sometimes. So with that being said, he does, of course, he's going to be returning with his podcast very soon, but I just want to just tell you there's still podcasts out there that you can definitely watch. So once you do become his friend, definitely go to his video section and you'll be able to see the podcast he's done so far, like the VST Intercast. Now, the Intercast is a news podcast. That news can be music, video games, or trailers. I call Vaughn the king of the weird trailers because sometimes he finds trailers that are interesting. Sometimes he finds trailers where I question our friendship. But again, I'm weird too, but he's also a big-ass kid. I'm also a big-ass kid. So we do have fun with this, and it's an interactive show, as you can see, that I've commented on that side, so definitely check that out. He also has another show for the purposes of this podcast. We're going to call it RAF. Now, of course, you can see what RAF stands for in the corner there. I'm not going to repeat it because, like I said, it's a family show. So RAF, think of it RAF like America's Funniest Home Videos if done from WorldStar. It is definitely the adult, definitely not bring your kids, but it's definitely funny and meant to get you meant to get you set on a right track for your week, as he usually does during the weeks. He might change that, but again, definitely check out RAF episodes that he actually has here as well. And another podcast which I'm looking forward to is the Rhythmness Music Podcast. We can run this over the rhythm, in which him, myself, and others will usually listen to music, whether he brings it to the table or he asks us to bring it to the table, and we just basically talk about it and rate it. Now, we are different on the musical scales, but hey, difference in musical taste lead to great conversations, and that's what Rhythmness is all about. And it's also an interactive show, so you can always get in on the fun as well. And finally, he does have his pop-up show called Fonkin' Around. Now, if you like beats, or if you're a person that's in search of beats to purchase, like this. And I have to stop it there because anymore I got to pay Vaughn. But yes, Vaughn does make beats like this, and he actually shows the process from beginning to end. So if you are a professional, if you are in the business of listing beats made, or if you're in the market to purchase beats, definitely reach out to Vaughn, BigVZA on Facebook. Of course, Funkin' Around does happen every day, or whenever Vaughn has inspiration. Sometimes it's 3 times a day, depending on when it hits him. But definitely check out his Facebook page, BigVZA to see all his podcasts. And like I said, he will be returning soon, and I cannot wait to hear half the stuff that he is going to say. Now, and also that being said, guys, just a reminder about my podcast schedule. It has actually changed. Every Wednesday from 8 to 10 p.m., I do a midweek edition of How the Frack We Got Here to cover the news that we've had in the week so far. Of course, Fridays are my Get Bit Fridays, which my podcast Get Bit, which is my Blurred Nerd podcast, in which we cover anime, cartoons, superhero television, movies, video. I did say video games because I definitely am a video gamer. We actually had 2 more people on there. I did have Shadow on there last night, and a new person, Joe, in which he definitely did bring a more comic book knowledge, which I did like, and we did talk about the CW shows. And I do have to apologize for the stream last night. Zoom and Comcast just didn't like each other, so I do apologize if the stream did kind of drop out. That's my fault. We will make it better, but we definitely will be doing again another Get Bit this upcoming Friday from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. And on Get Bit, like I said, we cover it all. So if you're into fandoms, or if you're into literature, books, or comics, that's what we try to do, so definitely check us out. Hopefully I will still have my Shadow and Joe back for next week, because again, I just love the fact of being able to talk with others about this. And also, oh, wow, that was a terrible segue. That was terrible. So aside from that, guys, like I said, Get Bit every Friday from 8:30 to 10. Saturdays, as you can see, the weekend edition of How the Frack We Got Here, from 10 a.m. to noon. And of course, a little bit later tonight, yes, we will have an Off Limits podcast. Like I said, with Off Limits, anything, like the name implies, we're going to go there. Any subject, any area, we are definitely going to talk about it. And trust me, I do got a topic tonight that I think is going to be kind of interesting. But I also want to still, like I said, use my Zoom. So if you're willing, and I know for a lot of people, because I usually said it was going to be a call-in, but now it's going to be a Zoom-in. So I know tonight on Off Limits podcast, we are going to do an experiment. I am going to use Zoom again, and actually open it up to where folks who are brave enough to come on there and have a talk with me on Zoom, we're going to see if you can do it. So tonight's going to be very interesting on Off Limits from 8 to 10 p.m. and hope to see you guys there. And like I said, all of my podcasts are actually at the link below, so definitely copy and paste it there. The last thing I'll sit there and say, guys, is COVID-19 is real. Please wear a mask. Please do social distancing. Please only go if you have to. Please avoid busy, corrupted areas. No matter what these people say, and no matter how many times they try to open this up, we definitely need to be careful. And I said before, the only reason the numbers are going down is because we're following directions. And now is not the time to rip the mask off and party like it's 1999. That's why I said if we look out for each other and actually follow the rules, the numbers will go down. And as vaccinations become more available, then you should definitely get that, because that is the only way we're going to beat this virus. Aside from that, guys, like I said, if you're a nurse, doctor, nurse aide, doctor's aide, those that work in environmental services, or just a hospital worker in general, thank you for all that you do, because you guys have been the real MVPs since last year. And also, guys, if you see any of those medical or hospital personnel walking out and about and you know them, just say thank you. They don't really get a lot for what they do. And also, thank you, essential people. I hate the word essential worker. I think it's such a corporate buzzword, and it makes me cringe every time it's said. So I always say thank you, essential people, because we need people to keep the world going. And I'm talking about those people that aren't able to work from home but actually have to go out and keep themselves protected. I'm talking about those that work in grocery stores, gas stations, those who are truck drivers, those who work in warehouses like Amazon, and those that work in logistics like United States Postal Service, UPS, FedEx, DHL, and others, teachers, first aid responders. I can keep going down the list. But thank you for all that you do, and it's certainly appreciated. Now, last thing about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. In order for us to move forward, we do need to stay informed, which means we are not trying to change your opinion. We are not trying to persuade you. We are simply giving you all the facts and allow you to make up your own mind. Because we do better when we're informed. An uninformed group of people got us Trump. An informed group of people got us our first black Madam Vice President. So thank you guys for all watching, and if you're watching this, if you commented live, I certainly appreciate it. And if you're commenting this on the playback, please do. I still want to know your opinions about everything. And like I said, please be safe, take care of each other, and we're all gonna get through this. Have a good weekend, guys. Hope to see you on Off Limits later. Peace.